Yo, what's up guys? After the video of yesterday with all of the elementals, now all of the LD4 stars. With this one, I did mention it, or I did forget to say it, but I did do it in the edit later. Always keep at least one of every unit. So in case that there is a buff or anything changes, meta changes, anything like that, always keep at least one of every unit. In the case of LDs, I would more keep everything and only feed in case of you really needing the skill ups. But otherwise, just put them in storage and just wait until they're good. So this one is a more of like a tier list of like, should you build it or should you just maybe keep it in storage and let it wait for like a balance patch or anything like that. Or maybe you can use things in like a specific content, anything like that. So we're gonna start right off with Chami. Also for this one, once again, I use the tiers that are kind of self-explanatory of saying like, okay, what should you use those units in? Rather than giving like the double S, triple S, because I actually feel like for this or 4-star tier list, it actually does make quite a bit sense. So for Chami, I would say it's only used for the R5 team. It is best in slot for the R5 team, but that is just to put in branding. So it's not really doing anything too much, but it's actually strong for just the branding in R5, but that's just that. I would say that I'm actually gonna place her, no wait. Well, can be replaced by a Cadiz. That's the only thing. But I don't want to place it that high because it's just R5. Anywhere else, you don't really use it. Kamiya, I would say that Shihua, her fire sister, is just better. Can be used, can have some potential, but it's not really commonly used because the other one is just simply better. I would say that this thing is recently buffed, does give a lot of invis right now, does have the Oblivion on skill too. I think it's not commonly used, but can have some potential. Then we have Talisha, which is definitely a strong unit for next to like Leo and next to like Ragdoll, that kind of stuff. So if you have like Ragdoll, this thing actually becomes in here. If you just have Leo, you can use in specific content, but it doesn't become like a must build or anything. Erdos is not really great. It's everything that Shimete should have been, but this thing is just so much worse in every kind of shape or way. Doesn't have speed scaling, doesn't have speed lead, so it's really not that great. This thing, kind of same thing, it's not really great as well. Leo May is definitely one that you can build. You could build multiple of, but I would just build one. It's for siege defense, you could build multiple, but I would just build one. It's definitely still a pretty strong unit for siege defense, but I would say it's kind of only siege defense these days. Well, I maybe give her like the strong and specific content because she's actually not as great anymore on siege defense because of, for example, Onyx these days as well. Then we have Faye. I would definitely build one. You can use it towards some PvE stages as well as like R5 or Rift dungeons or anything like that. Plus Siege defense, you see it from time to time. Arena offense and Siege offense, even if you really want to test your luck, you could try it, but it's definitely a strong unit still. Mihail, wait, this is Mihail, right? Yeah, this is Mihail. You currently don't see it as much anymore because it's mainly replaced by things such as an Alaya. She was actually, before Alaya, this thing was very good, but since Alaya's there, it's kind of replaced by a 5-star. She's just good next to like Feng Yang and Valajul and those kind of units. Icarus, I would say Icarus is definitely nice to build one. It's one of those good snipe units, can use in RTA, can use in Siege offense, can maybe use in Arena offense. It's a little bit worse over there, but a bunch of places where it can actually perform a snipe and it becomes pretty good. Figaro, I would say Siege defense, Arena defense, a maybe, but it's just those two defense things, and it's not really great at it. So I would say strong in specific content, but it's not really super strong. It's just kind of okay. Now, actually, I'm gonna put it. No, I'm gonna put it one up. It does actually. No, I'm gonna put it one down because it does easily get replaced by a net 5 moment. You get a net 5 that strips it so much better. Akia, or wait, is this Akia? No, wait, something that's very similar to Akia is the fire one. Well, doesn't matter. This thing you can use it for TOA Heart of CCing, but it's no longer used as much. This thing is pretty much even way worse. This thing is literally does nothing, so it's really not used. Oh, wait, I forgot about the other bomber. The other bomber, Libli, I would definitely build one if you want to do bombing teams. Libli is probably your to-go bomber. It's the strongest bomber in-game for pure damage output because you only need the 35 accuracy and then you can focus a lot of stats on attack. I would say arguably John is a better bomber because his bomb on the skill 3 is a lower cooltime. So, or is a lower, not a lower cooltime, but a lower bomb duration. So it explodes earlier on one target, plus it goes for the increased cooltime on it, plus it can cycle on the S2 as well. So a bunch of things going for him, but it's definitely one of those stronger bombers out there. Jin, I would say you can build multiple of, But the thing is, it's kind of weird where he's actually only just strong in specific content because you can use him as many times as you have Dovas or Tions and Lucians. That's just kind of the thing. So you could build multiple of him, but he's just the setup. Like any speed lead would kind of do, like a Miang would kind of do as well. So just gonna put Jin over there for that reason. Eva's recently buffed. I think that she can do quite some damage in siege offense, but she's not really been tested that much. So I would say not commonly used, but I definitely do think that she has quite some potential in siege offense, maybe even some PvE stages. Then we have Luna, which is absolutely bold one, very strong unit at the moment, especially after that buff. It's also full free to play again because of the HOH rotation that we have recently. And yeah, just an insane amount of damage on her in all of the PvE stages. I wouldn't use her PvP though, but PvE dungeons, she's absolutely god tier. This thing was used in the past for giving the invis to a Katarina, in like a Katarina kind of setup. I think that there's other options out there these days if people use Katarina. However, R5 is very commonly not using Katarina these days. So not commonly used, so kind of bad. So it's not really that great. Guillaume, however, we do see on siege defense from time to time. It's very good against you in TOA hard. That's where it's good at. But siege defense, it's not a bad unit. So I'm going to give him strong for that. But siege defense is not too bad next to like a Kiklet and then a speed lead or something like that. Could be annoying. Then we have an Iona, which is definitely good in siege offense. You could build multiple of it if you commonly use siege offenses with revivers. But it's definitely a strong reviver that you want to build at least one of. Chris is actually one of those you could build multiple of. It's a very good sniping unit next to like a Chilling or next to like an Adriana or Adriana Miang, those kind of comps. Chris becomes a really good sniper, and the same thing for Bethany. Both of those have like an insane potential of sniping units, and you want to build multiple of those. It's mainly just siege, but those are definitely one of those that you want to build multiple of for siege. Fang, I would say, is pretty good for some of the Rift dungeons. You can actually place it towards PC as well. PC Punisher script is not too bad as well. I would say in Steel Fortress, also not too bad. So definitely has a few places in PvE where you can definitely use her, and she would do pretty good. Ren, however, is not really great. That thing just doesn't do anything. Hellfest, I would say strong arena defense, but well, I would say siege offense, you can use it here and there as well, but arena defense mainly, so strong in specific content. Conrad, I would say you can see it sometimes on siege defense, but I haven't really seen it with too much success, but it was kind of okay. You see it from time to time in siege offense rather than defense, and then it's pretty nice next to those snipe comps with like a Lucia or something like that. It does have some usage in there, so I would say it's strong for siege here and there. This thing is also very strong for siege. Would I actually place it OP? I would say so because, yeah, if you want to tank a light unit, let's say a Narsha or something, I think it's kind of just Narsha. Well, maybe Narsha and light Ivor, those two units are very well tanked by a Dia. So I would definitely say, I'm just going to place over here. It's not that OP. I think same thing for you. It's not that OP. It's just good, but it's good in just siege offense. That's about it for both of those. Then we have Grego, which I would say can be used here and there, but you don't really see Grego being used too much anymore, I think. Then we have a bunch of those samurais, which are just shit. I've tried to make those two work for quite a while, but they were always kind of garbage. I think they're just not doing any damage whatsoever. I did put on these with the non-awakened version as well, or I'm not even sure which one is awakened, non-awakened, but just gonna leave those in. Gemini, I would actually say, is pretty OP, and Gemini is one of those weird units that we don't appreciate enough because we have been getting Gemini for like the longest time, but the people that actually don't have a Gemini because of missing that HOH way back, the moment that you're gonna get Gemini, you're gonna see that this unit actually has a fucking loaded kit, especially in earlier game. Sure, it is inconsistent, but if it lands, it's a strip and an armor break while being a speed lead. Even Nephthys doesn't do all of that. Sure, it's more consistent on the armor break and it lands other shot, but it doesn't strip. Like, this thing is actually fucking loaded for its kit. If you use this next to a Kali Leia or a Kali Bailey or whatever, you can do an insane amount of arena offense with this, plus recently buffed that you don't, or you could even have buffs and still perform the strip. Then we have Corona, which I've never seen anyone use. Pretty bad unit. Dover, which is an okay-ish unit for a bomber, but I would say that the Liebly or something is just so much better for bombing, so I wouldn't really use this too much, but I would say I give it this. Like, it's replaced by a John or a Liebly in most cases. This thing, I've seen it sometimes as a Nem trap, but there's probably better Nem traps in RTA out there these days. Huadam, I would definitely say strong in specific content. Siege offense next to a Raccoon and a Yen. That's the most common thing that I've seen with Huadam. But there's a lot of Huadam teams out there that you can still make him work. Mirmir is pretty interesting for Siege, or used to be interesting for Siege. You can maybe put it towards some PvE stuff, but his animations, mainly on the skill 3, is kind of lengthy. Does have a good amount of damage though, but I think Mirmir is still pretty decent. Not super great, but kind of decent. This thing, however, you kind of expect this one to do a lot and get like the skill 3 in many times, but it's such a sack thing that it's not commonly used and also kind of bad. Brig is one of those where I would say it is okay-ish for Steel Fortress, but it's just kind of okay-ish there. It's not even that great, so I'm gonna put it in there. Frigate, I would say, is also one of those decent units, but Frigate always was, for me, in this weird position where his skill 3 doesn't make sense for the following thing. If you make if you make Frigate fast, then his boost works fully, but his cooldown reduction doesn't make sense because all of your other units are full cooldown, so it doesn't work, right? But if you make your Frigate move afterwards, then the boost doesn't make too much sense. So in both cases, I feel that Frigate was always kind of in a weird spot, but he can have some usage here and there. I can see the potential in him. I would say Molly currently is kind of out of meta as well. It's definitely not as common anymore. But I definitely do think it's still a strong healer if you want to have a light tank with some healing potential and that kind of stuff. Beta, I would definitely say, is both 1 and is OP. The reason that I claim Beta higher than an Iona is because Beta is also used on defense. You can place it next to a Carcano plus a Miles is what you commonly see, something along those lines. And she's just a better reviver than Iona, in my opinion. So, pretty interesting unit for that, but I wouldn't necessarily build multiple. I would say Lucas, this might be an underrated unit, but I would definitely say Lucas is OP. And the reason that Lucas is OP is because he is absolutely the strongest in slot for all of the Rift dungeons. So Rift raids, all of the 5 elements. All of the 5, I use Lucas, and he does an insane amount of damage in those. So definitely highly recommend it. If you have this unit, just place it in the rough dungeons. It's going to fill out one of those 6 slots for those units. But always use this thing. It's just very good in damage, super quick animations, zooming through those stages, and it just does a lot. So definitely a very strong unit for that. Keep in mind that he doesn't need that much crit rate because he gets crit rate from having a shield. And actually a shield set counts for him as getting that crit rate from his passive. So definitely a nice unit in there. Then we have this thing, which I forgot the name of. It is the one with the silence. It's kind of a meme unit. It's not really used, probably bad. This thing, however, is definitely good. Isabel, I would say, is very good for the snipe comp, especially with like a Gemini. Personally, I don't really use this thing anymore at all, but I definitely would see a lot of potential for arena offense, siege offense. I've seen some people try it in RTA 4-star. It's not really that great. It does have the lead of 19 in speed, I think, but that's a little bit in there. I did forget about this thing. Carl is one of those. It does have the death denying effect on the skill 3 and the guaranteed crit. Issue is that he has some potential, but he mostly doesn't do enough damage, and it just makes him kind of. Lynette is one of those. It does have some potential, but I would say that the skill 3 damage enemy max HP is not enough to actually make it useful. Iris, I would say, is currently not that great in meta, but still siege defense, siege offense, you could use it. Then we go for this thing, which is pretty decent in siege offense, but just siege offense. It's pretty good mainly next to a Hanra, but I think I'm gonna place it over there. It's mainly the Hanra team with like a Hanra and then a Konamiya, or Konamiya or a Tion. And then you keep cycling the Invis, and then Hanra can't kill himself, but still do a lot of damage. It's an interesting comp, but it's not really that crazy, and most people don't even use this. Plus, you can only use this if the enemy doesn't have any strips, and most net force these days do have a strip somewhere. Then we have Armana, which I would say is strong in specific content, and that's mainly Labyrinth. I would say Siege Offense, you can kind of use him, but the big issue for him is his base stats are just garbage. If he had higher base stats, this thing would actually be insane because his kit is loaded as fuck. Armor breaks, heal blocks, brandings, revive, cleanse, heal. Like, what the fuck? That's so many things. It's just his base stats are pretty garbage, so he tends to die very fast. So for siege offense, can use him, but he's mainly good in Tatarus. I think he's for the revivers for Tatarus, or whatever that final boss of Labyrinth is called. He's probably one of the best in slot units in there because of his loaded kit. So I definitely would say strong in specific content because of that. Then we say Amduet. I would say Amduet, it's a little bit hard counted by Adriana these days, but for arena defense, it's still pretty strong. In siege here and there, you can see it. Plus, Amduet can actually do like quite some damage as well. And in RTA, a good pick of an Amduet against something that where the enemy takes a shit ton of turns, for example, like a Gio, Oliver, blah, blah, blah. Amduet can actually be nasty in siege as well, so definitely like that unit. Misty, I would say in lower ranks of siege, maybe I place it in like OP build one for defense, but I would say just good on defense, maybe decent in siege offense, but it's not really a common unit we see in high-end siege, so gonna place it strong in specific content for that. I would say that this one is not commonly used, but has potential, and then it mainly has potential if people use that Rogue, Elsharian, Dusky, blah 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 team in RTA. It's not really great, but you do get a lot of buffs and crit rate and speed, and then you tend to do a lot of damage. It's interesting, but it's not really crazy good. Then we have Dova, which I definitely say OP and actually build multiple off, because as many Dovas as you have, as many snipes you can do. Could be illusion, could be a Julie, could be many things. And for that reason, I would say having multiple Dovas is definitely very useful. Because Dova in the end is so much better than a Tion, because so much more base speed. Where Tion is, I think Tion is like 95, this thing is 105. I don't remember Tion, could be 96 as well, but at least this thing is a lot and a lot higher for that. So Dova is definitely very nice to get multiple of. Tableau used to be good in Siege. No, wait, not Siege. Used to be good in RTA, but just RTA. Even in RTA, it's also not as great anymore. So I'm actually going to place Tableau over here. Because the moment you got other units, you're probably not going to use Tableau as much anymore. Monty is siege defense here and there, but I've noticed that Monty on siege defense is not doing enough damage on the skill 3 anymore, so Monty kind of fell off in that as well. So I'm just gonna place Monty over there as well. Then we're gonna go for some twins. Deva is definitely one of those that is very strong in Dragons, very strong in R5, very strong in Rift Dungeons, so everything PvE related, Deva is insanely strong. This thing, however, is the one that gives the, or strips and then puts continuous damage. Can use it here and there in siege defense. I've seen some siege defenses kind of use it, but wasn't really too much a fan of it, but can have some potential, I would say. Then we have Bailey, which I actually do think is pretty strong as well, because it is one of the few units in game that gives a self-attack buff and then also deals damage afterwards. So I actually think she's pretty underrated. The only reason that she's not used as much and I don't use her is because Leia's just so much better. But if you don't have a Leia, I think she's pretty much next best in slot, because she also has speed scaling damage. So she pairs very well with like Ashers or Chillings or something like that. Especially a Chilling, because Chilling boosts her speed, she boosts her own attack. You have something else to armor break, she can go for a nasty hit. So that's definitely, you could even go for like Gemini, this thing, and then a Chilling, and you would have like pretty nice offense right there. So definitely liking that unit over there. Martina, also one of those siege defense. Maybe in the earlier game you see it quite some. End game, like G3, you don't see that at all. But I would say that it's still a very strong unit. Plus, you can place it arguably against the Dragons team. You can place it in Steel Fortress. You can maybe place it in Punisher. So there's a whole bunch of places where she becomes still pretty good for stealing some of those buffs. Valeria is one of those healers with a shield and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Not too much going on for her. I can see some potential for her, but it's not really too great. Herney, I would say for siege defense, you have seen some teams here and there that were okay, but most of the teams with her on defense weren't really that interesting, but it could be okay. This thing is, yeah, it's the one that kills and stuns your own team, and then you work with the mechanic where, like, you're Josephine, and then your Josephine instantly gets a turn and shield, blah, blah, but it's really more of those weird-ass niche comps where you kill your own Samath, and then that kills the whole enemy team. Yeah, funny if it works, but it's really not that great. Thrasher, I haven't seen Thrasher being used that much, so I think maybe I undervalue him right now. I don't have him. I never used him, actually. It's like a Skullgirl, of course. It was recently buffed for something, but just gonna place it in here. Like, it's, of course, it's not really replaced by net net 5, but another net 4, probably. Then we have Emily, which I don't really see being used too much, but I do think she has some potential. Her kit is actually not that bad. Like, she has the Absorb and Stun, and then AoE also Armor Break, so it's not that bad. Magnum, I would definitely build one off if you have him. You could even build multiple off, but one at least. It is pretty good if people go Chillings on defense, because the moment Chilling goes for skill 2, Magnum will take a turn, and then Magnum skill 2 does do a lot of damage the moment that you also strip things. So that is definitely a very nice snipe unit for that. Also, if people tend to go like Pontus on defense, or people go for Chloe on defense, Magnum will absolutely eat that alive. So it kind of depends on the meta if Magnum becomes good. Then we have Dragunov, and this thing is just straight up a meme. It keeps in his state with the moment he kills something, but a Carcano is just so much better. So Dragunov is really a bad unit in my opinion. This thing is one of those that in stone state it gives the cooltime up. Doesn't really do too much. Haven't really seen it being useful, but can be used, I guess. So, but it's kind of bad, I think. Onyx is strong in siege offense. I think it's still strong in siege offense even after the nerf. But for example, against the Leo May, Onyx will just make it that she will keep targeting the Onyx, keep pushing it back, and then it's still going to be strong. This thing is very strong in specific content, and the only content is Tear Away Hell. So next to her sister, just Tear Away Hell Queens, pretty much. This thing is absolutely strong. You absolutely, the more Mirenes to have, the more Mirene Dovas you have, the happier you are, because that is just an insane amount of cleaving potential that you get in there. And if you have 10 Mirenes and 10 Dovas, you're gonna have fun time in Siege. Well, your mana maybe not, but you're gonna have fun time in Siege with hitting with those. Then we have this thing. I don't even... Oh, this one is also placing continuous damage. I think it's just bad. Maybe it's 1-up, but bad. Then we have this thing, Clyde, which I think is pretty strong for just Siege offense, but it's kind of like on Diaz levels. Like Siege offense, some specific hit, he ignores the debuffs and that kind of stuff, but there's not too many light units to tank these days. You could use it into a Ciara to tank a Ciara, and then you use double fire next to it. That's kind of an option, but most of the teams don't really allow you to do that too much. Then we have Leia, which is... I'm not sure if I would build multiple of Leia though. Like these units, I would definitely build multiple of. Leia, if you happen to have multiple of like Gemini Leia Kalis or something, you could build multiple of. But for me personally, I don't really use Leia in Siege, but I use Leia a lot in Arena Offense. And in Arena Offense, Leia is insanely strong. Probably strongest in slot for Arena Offense out there. For like damage dealing in general, there's even a lot of LD5s that are like, okay, Leia does it a way better job. So I give Leia a lot of credit for that. So absolutely OP, absolutely want to build, but building multiple is only if you use multiple in Siege, which I kind of, for me personally, I doubt. Then we have this thing, which I think is pretty decent for a strip in a bunch of places, but it's not really commonly used, but I definitely do think that her strip has some potential. Then we have Kinky. I would definitely say Kinky is still OP, even after nerf. We have seen it in SWEL, for example. Kinky for a skill 1 into skill 2 is still an insane amount of damage. It's just that his passive has kind of been hard nerfed, where it's a lot worse on defense for that reason. But you can still actually place him on defense. It's not bad, but especially for offense, if you place this thing in Siege offense against the Zeratul or something, it's guaranteed win. Like, it's so free as possible. And there's a whole bunch of other dark units that he becomes a very good tank against. So definitely still liking Kinky for that reason. Light Robo, never seen it used, pretty shit. Dark Robo, very fucking good. I would say mainly RTA, but actually Siege offense as well. Like, let's say that you have this thing plus a Tyrone and a Wind Robo. It's not the safest of hits, but it's probably going to win like 85% of the time. So it's definitely a decent, like 85 to 95, depending on your artifacts for additional damage, I guess. But definitely a very strong unit that you do want to build. This thing is super meme. It's kind of like a Math, but I would even say that Math is better because Math has shorter animations. So for that reason, Debra is absolutely one of those that is OP. However, keep in mind with Debra, Debra's only going to make your runs faster because it makes your other units deal more damage. And therefore you save time that you don't have the animations of a 5th unit. However, if you place in a 5th unit, that 5th unit will always add in to more damage than Debra spreads on the rest of the team. So let's say that you put a Lin or a Shaman or a Monkless or a Luna in her slot. that unit will do more damage than her damage given to the other 4. Keep that in mind. And for that reason, it's safer to put in another unit than Debra. However, Debra for PvE is still the fastest in slot because you just skip animations because the others just do a lot more damage. Plus, in arena offense, she's pretty nice as well because you add in a lot more damage. But once again, it's the same thing. If you miss armor breaks or you miss trips, this thing is gonna make you lose, whereas another unit might have been the failsafe that actually could have saved your ass. So it is a kind of double-edged sword, which I think is kind of overrated for some scenarios as well. Then we have Siamese, which I think is the unit that makes it that you can't be slept. It is not bad into Celia teams, but it's literally just Celia teams in Siege offense, so it's not really that great. I would say Bombay is kind of okay-ish. You don't see it really being used that much, but it's an okay unit for like bruising in Siege. It's just very difficult to have you sleeping, enemy sleeping, and then you hitting it with a crit and then ignoring the defense. It's a lot of like if. But the moment you do manage to get it, it does do like easily 40k. So it does have an insane amount of damage and for that reason some potential. I would say this thing also is strong in specific content, and that specific content is only the subjugation and is only the time attack in Labyrinth, but it's really good at those. So if you're looking for units for subjugation, this thing is actually insanely good for that. Truffle, I would absolutely say, is one of the more OP units. It is the highest armor break rate, except for a Nephthys and a Asima in the whole game. Because it has a double chance to armor break on skill 3 with a 100% activation on both hits. So it has a good amount of armor breaks, even through glancing, even through like passives of like a molly or something like that. It still has like a lot of chance to actually land its shit. So definitely a very strong unit for that reason. Talking about strong units with strong armor breaks, Jasmine is kind of on the same level. The only difference is where Jasmine also puts a cooltime increase. So maybe you miss the armor break, but then you still have cooltime increase, so you can't be one-shot by the enemy. Or you're just resetting a Vanessa or a Samath. Plus, her skill 2, the moment it lands and it drains a lot of, or it actually removes a lot of attack bar, that attack bar goes into damage. That thing can easily do like 20k on a Camilla if the Camilla has full HP. It's really insane for that skill 2. This thing, however, is... I've never seen this being used. Probably bad. This thing is very meme and bad. That's the one with 2 turns stun, but they're like super low odds. It's super terrible. This thing, straight up bad. This thing is bad. Danu is pretty interesting. I would say Siege defense, Siege offense, but the big issue where Danu isn't that great is that you always know Danu is built on somewhat damage. You can't really build Danu tanky, whereas this thing, Vitra, you can actually build super tank as well. So you could build multiple if you have multiple and you want to put multiple towards Siege defense. You have the rune quality for it. But I would say if you care about Siege defense, then the Vitra is actually one of those you can build multiple of. But let's just say that build one. It's definitely because you can't really use them multiple offenses. So, and these are all like multiple Siege offense. So I would say absolutely a very good unit. Put it over there. Then we have this thing, which I checked it yesterday what they did, and I don't remember. And for that reason, I think both of them not that great. Dark Series, however, is pretty good. I also checked it out yesterday. A lot of the people ask like, oh, my Dark Series is good. Wait, why is my Dark Series bad then? Like, no, your Dark Series is not bad. Like, yeah, but she doesn't do any damage. No. She doesn't do any damage because you expect to go crit rate, crit damage on her and then her to hit like 50k. Ain't gonna happen. She does a lot of chip damage and she has speed scaling, but you want to get the damage in from having a speed buffer next to her. So let's say a Chilling, a Vigor, or an Escher, or anything like that. And then with that, she gets a little bit extra damage, plus additional damage artifacts by speed. So people that are saying that their Dark Series isn't doing enough, pretty much means they have no artifacts. So that's simply, or they don't pair it with a speed buffer, or they have no artifacts, or both. So those are the kind of things that you want to do for Dark Series to actually make it work. And then we also have Light Yennefer, which is kind of a Hey Gang, but then without a cleanse. And a Hey Gang without a cleanse is nothing. So I think it has some potential, but it's not really great, even after buff. So yeah, that's the whole list within 30 minutes of all of the LDs. I don't know, at the moment that you're watching this video, maybe we already have the 10th anniversary events, maybe not. Maybe there's something related to 4-star events. I don't know if it is, so it's just highly speculative right now. But let's say that there was an event where you could choose an LD4. I would recommend people to go for a Leia, because Leia is just insanely good for damage, where there's pretty much also not a single unit on the whole game that pretty much does as much. No LD5s, no nothing that can do as much. Deborah is an option that I think a lot of people would like to go for. I think it's just very good for R5. But if you expect it to make your dungeons better, like your Kairos, your dragons, your giants, you're maybe looking at a bad time. It's not that great. It's just very good for R5, but anything else, it's kind of like, maybe. And then I would also say that these two, if you care about defense, these two units are pretty interesting for defense as well. So those are the units that my recommendation goes towards. But then again, I would say if you pick any of the units that's here at the top, maybe not a look, maybe something not that's like pure PvE focus. So I wouldn't go for this like pure PvE focus. Wouldn't go for anything that's HOH, or like a few of those fall off because of being HOH. So take any of those that is non-HOH and non-pure PvE, and you probably have a good choice for that if it happens. I don't know. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoy these videos, and I hope you appreciate this video as well. If so, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab, which has the Dungeon Guide Archive and the Video Guide Archive, which contains all of the guides that you need. Hope to see you there.